Welcome to another Hollywood Times Live. Tonight, Tyler Laracca interviews Danielle Moné Truitt, star of 3 Black Girl Blues.
Hey everybody, my name is Tyler Laracca with the Hollywood Times, and I am here with actress, singer, dancer, producer, just performing arts extraordinaire, Danielle Moné Truitt. Danielle, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks for having me.
It's going to be awesome. Of course, we're going to get to the big news within this, this video, your one-woman play that's, going to take over theaters here in the next couple of weeks. But I do want to, I want to start by talking about you. Of course, starting with your, point of inception. God, I can't even talk today. Your point of inception for finding love for the performing arts. When did that start for you? When did that love for just being expressive through art start for Miss Danielle?
Well, I guess the first time I can remember is when I was about 7 years old. That's when I started being very interested in singing. My mom was a singer and we always had a lot of music in our home. And I remember like singing Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey songs and loving Michael Jackson. Like when I was 5, like Michael Jackson was like my invisible friend. And I would eat breakfast in the morning and tell my mom to like make a bowl of cereal for Michael. So I've always been very much, into music and into the arts. And when I got a little older, probably I think 6th grade, I did my first play. I was Belle in Beauty and the Beast. We basically just like lip sync the music from the soundtrack of Beauty and the Beast or whatever. So that was like my first experience with being in a play. But for me, it was more singing and like performing in talent shows and dancing. And I'm from South Sacramento. I was born and raised there, and when I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money, so I wasn't in like a lot of programs and stuff like that for the arts. But growing up in church, I really like honed my gift for singing, and then watching music videos and stuff like that. I would just kind of learn how to dance, and then it just kept going from there. When I got to high school, I finally took a theater class and was kind of introduced to theater in a more serious way. But I didn't really take it serious because I was a cheerleader and I played basketball and I was a food court team. Like I had all this stuff going on. And so it wasn't until college that I took another theater class, and my professor, really encouraged me to pursue, acting. She said I had a natural gift and she asked me to audition for a play. And I did, and I got the lead. And I went through the whole process of, putting a play up, and it just really captured my heart, and I've loved acting, ever since, especially theater.
So are you still, obviously, based on what we're going to talk about today, are you more, still loving theater over film and TV? Is it starting to equalize a little bit?
Well, I think theater will always be my first love. I mean, I love the money from TV. Okay, like I mean, that's the great part about television. But television is still fun. It's definitely a different medium. But I do feel like theater is the goat of like performing arts. There's nothing like being on stage live and experiencing what it's like. That energy between you being on stage and the audience, and kind of having to be present. You have to be present when you're on stage. You can't really phone it in. And if you do, everybody's going to see that you're, phoning it in. You get one shot, you got to do it. You can't, there's no take 2, take 3, So, yeah, I love theater. I think theater will definitely always be my first love, even with all the TV and stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah, you definitely don't get the C-stand with the tennis ball attached to it,
Right.
on stage. Which I mean, I commend anybody who has the courage and the focus to go on stage and perform. I'm a film TV person. I love multiple takes. Put me on a stage, and it's just blank. It's just it's not gonna happen. But
I
I
love
mean,
it. I love it.
speaking of that, I do want to get into, there's always trials and tribulations with this industry, with this career, right? So, one, when did you decide, hey, I'm gonna book it, I'm gonna make this work, I'm gonna make this my job, my career? And what
Mhm.
were some of the pitfalls you experienced in the first, let's say the first 10 years of your career? What was that like for you?
That's a good question. Well, I think when I did the play in college and I went through that experience, I knew that I wanted to be an actor. And I knew that I didn't want to be an actor and then like become a teacher or professor or whatever. I knew that I really wanted, to pursue it. So I got my degree in acting, and then I did a lot of community theater in Sacramento right after college. Shortly after college, I got my equity card, and I started doing theater at a theater here in Sacramento called B Street Theater, and then worked at a couple of the other theaters. And I did a play called A Raisin in the Sun, and the lead of the play, his name is Steve Harris. He's a television actor, and his agent from LA came to see the play because he was in it and he really liked me. He asked me to come to LA to meet with their agency. And this was the first time, I had ever been approached by an agent. So I was really excited, of course. So I went down and I met with him. And then he had to try to convince the other agents, at the agency that they should sign me. And they were like, she just got out of college 2 seconds ago. She has no credits. Like, no, we are not signing her. But I was so encouraged by the fact that they even wanted to meet with me. It gave me the courage to say, like, I'm going to leave Sacramento. I got to decide whether I'm going to go to New York or go to LA, but I'm going to leave here because I know I want to do it on a bigger scale, than what Sacramento could offer me. So I talked to Steve Harris and he was like, well, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond, or do you want to be a small fish in a large pond and just become a bigger fish? Like to have, the room to grow into a bigger fish. And I was like, well, that's what I want. So I moved to LA. And when I moved to LA, I didn't have an agent. I think I had about $4,500, and I don't know what I thought that $4,500 was going to do because it was gone in about 2 months. LA is so expensive. But I moved there. I got in touch with a family, one of my family members who was like extended family that had a small agency. So she started, putting me out there for commercials and stuff. And I booked a couple commercials, which was very helpful with me staying in LA. And then at that time, I reconnected with my high school sweetheart. We got married like a year later. So I moved to LA for acting, and then I ended up getting married like a year later. And then 3 years later, we had our first child. So I'm trying to navigate being a mom and a wife and having a career. And I ended up joining this group called For the Record, and we would perform famous directors, the music from the soundtrack of famous directors' movies, and we would perform music and scenes and made it into like this theatrical experience in this bar. It was a tiny bar, like it literally sat like 60 people, and it was in Los Feliz. And so we did like For the Record Coen Brothers, For the Record Scorsese, For the Record Tarantino, like, and it was really cool. And it gave me a chance to, share my gift, my singing and acting in Los Angeles. And it ended up garnering a lot of attention. So executives would come, other agents would come, and see what we were doing, And at the same time, I started working on my one woman show called Three Black Girl Blues. I was just looking for opportunities to be able to share my gift. I never wanted to wait on someone else to give me permission to do what I loved, and I knew the money would come eventually if I plant the seeds, So I think that's what the first 10 years of my journey in LA was. It was planting seeds so that eventually, a bigger harvest would come and I get bigger opportunities. But at the same time, 3 years after I had my first son, I had my second son. So, within these 10 years, I'm still auditioning, I'm getting a little closer. And then once it was 10 years of me being in LA, that's when I booked my first lead role on a television show. Before that, I had booked a guest star on Super Fun Night, which was on ABC. And then I had booked a co-star on Milano, which was on Fox. Those were the only TV credits I had. So I was like, okay, slowly but surely, like, I'm getting more opportunities. Like I said, in the meantime, I would produce my play here and there, and so I finally got an audition for this show called Rebel. It was on BET, and it was produced by John Singleton. And I auditioned for the lead of the show. Never in a million years thought I was going to get it. Like, I was like, there's so many Black actresses that have been in the game longer than me. I'm sure they're going to give it to somebody that's more well known, But I went in, I auditioned. John Singleton loved me. It's literally one of the highlights of my career, like that audition experience. Just the way that he understood who I was and like what I had to offer. And he really believed that I was the right person for that role. And when I left the audition, like I said, I didn't think I was going to get it, but I was like, well, this gives me hope at least. John Singleton is a legend, and he sees that I have some talent. So I'm going to take this with me into whatever I end up, into whatever I do end up getting. But I ended up getting that role like 3 or 4 months later. That's the other thing, the waiting game, like the way you have to wait. You never know. You think like, oh, 2-3 weeks have passed. I guess I didn't get it. And then all of a sudden, 3 months later, they're like, that role you auditioned for 4 months ago? You got it. So I think in my 10 years, and during that time I did other plays. Like I did the West Coast premiere of The Mountaintop at San Diego Rep. And, sometimes when you're in it, you think like you're not doing enough or enough is not coming, things aren't coming to you, or, why aren't you getting opportunities? But if you really look at your journey, you'll see that you are getting opportunities. Every single thing you do goes toward where you want to eventually be, And so when I got the lead role in Rebel, it didn't make me a superstar at all. What it did is it just took me to the next level. So now I get to audition again. Like I didn't have to stop. I didn't get to stop auditioning. I got one season of that show. And now once that show was over, I got to audition for, better things, better roles and bigger roles. And now I'm, where I'm at today. But there was a lot of ups and downs. There were times that I felt like, well, maybe I'm fooling myself, maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I should have moved to New York instead of LA and, did the Broadway thing. Like maybe I'm better suited for that. But one thing I never did, I didn't give up. Even in the times when I felt like I wanted to, I just kept believing that if I put the work in and believe in myself, that what I was desiring would come to pass, and it has. And after those 10 years, there was more devastation roles that I thought I was going to get. I thought Rebel was going to go on for more seasons than it did. That was devastating. I went through a little mini depression. It's just being an artist and going for those opportunities is hard because there's no roadmap. You don't know. People ask me all the time, how do I don't know. I don't even know how I'm here. I have no idea. You just got to put one foot in front of the other one and hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's like showing somebody a roadmap of the United States from 1962, but it's 2023. And they're like, how do I? I'm like, I don't know, man. This is the only one I have. Like, that's mine.
Exactly.
So I do want to talk about your one woman show. When you started sitting down to write it, what drew you to pour your creativity into that space as a writer and as a creator? What happened there?
So when I moved to LA, or right before I moved to LA, I actually saw a one-man show. And It was fantastic. I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember the impact that it left on me. You know, I thought he was fantastic. I thought it was remarkable how he played so many different characters, how into the play I was, and it was just him on the stage. And I had never done anything like that, but something in me was like, you can do that, you know? So when I got back to LA, like I said, I didn't have I didn't have a job, you know, I was just looking for ways to put myself out into the world. And so I called my friend Anthony Durand, who helped me write Three Black Girl Blues. And I told him I wanted to do a one woman show. And I was like, can you help me? You know, I don't really know how to write. Can you help me write this show? And so we started working on it together. He started sending me little vignettes, and a few years passed. You know, we hadn't come up with exactly what it was going to be. I think about 3 years passed maybe. And then he sent me what is now Three Black Girl Blues. And I think at the time I was pregnant with my first son, and I read about 5 pages of the play, and I was like, no. I was like, no, this is like what? Like the first character is very urban woman, very, you know, we call ghetto, just, you know, very foul language, the things that she's talking about. And I'm like, you know, at that time I was taking myself so seriously as an actor. I'm like, I'm not gonna play that kind of role on stage, like, you know, whatever. And so I didn't even finish reading the play, you know. So I had my son, and he was about 2 months old at the time. And I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to get things in my career rolling again. And I heard the Lord say, read that play. And I was like, oh, okay, let me go back and read that play. So I actually sat down and read the play with no judgment. And of course, by the end of it, I was just crying. Like, it was just, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. So I called Anthony, and I was like, I finally read. We didn't even have a name for it at the time. I'm like, I finally read the play. He's like, oh, you did? He's like, you never said anything, so I didn't. I was like, I know. I was like, I want to put it up in a month. Like, I want to put this up in a month. So we workshopped it, me and him, for a month, made some rewrites here and there, and put it up in this warehouse. And I invited my friends. It was about 100 people that came, and I performed it for the first time. And that was the start of a very long journey, because now it's been about 13 years that I've been working on this play, and we've done some rewrites here and there. You know, I definitely became more involved in, you know, the writing and stuff, and the developing of these characters, and it's literally become one of the highlights of my career. Like, this play is like, it's like a mantle that I have, that I know, you know, I'm supposed to keep performing this and get it out to as many people as I can. It's dealing with some very prolific and awesome themes that touch people's hearts and help them to see themselves in a deeper way and understand themselves in a way that they never did before. You know, every time I do it, people say that, you know, their lives have been impacted, and I think that's I know that's the reason why I do what I do. I can't speak for other people, but doing theater, doing the arts, I think for me, it is something that I want to impact people's lives, you know, because it's impacted my life very much. So, yeah, I think it started with me wanting an opportunity. It started with me really wanting to know more about myself. I didn't know that at the time, but the longer that I worked on it, I realized, like, oh, I was in a place in my life at that time. I just didn't know who I was. You know, I had all these roles to fulfill for other people. I was a wife, I was a mom, you know, but who am I? And I think this play helped me in that way, and it helps a lot of other people in that way as well.
And you know what? If that, I'm looking at you, audience, if this didn't sell you on the show, I don't know what you want. But it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to hopefully check it out next time I'm in Los Angeles. But I do want to ask you, for our listeners and for our viewers, of this channel, where can they find this fantastic one-woman play? Where is it going to run? What are the
Yes,
dates? If you can give that to us.
sure. So Three Black Girl Blues will be running at the Hudson Theater May 19th through June 4th. You can purchase tickets at www.hudsontheater.com. And it's also going to be running in Sacramento at B Street Theater June 8th through June 18th. And you can buy tickets for that run at www.bstreet.org, I believe. So yeah, and then of course I'm on Instagram, Danielle Moné Truitt, and the play has an Instagram page, 3 Black Girl Blues. It's the number 3. But yeah, I hope you guys can make it out. I'm really excited to share it and be back in LA and back on the stage.
Absolutely. I'm going to put all that information in the show notes. I just want to say again, Danielle, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to end it here, but I wish you the best of luck. Break a leg on stage. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And suggest you subscribe to this channel for the next Hollywood Times Live.